Shalom, привет, как дела, salut tout le monde, and hello. Welcome to Eastern Europe. Yeah, so I think today I want to just rant about democracy and what's going on in the Western world and the Western propaganda. Let's talk about Russia again. Just really hammer out democracy and the nonsense going on in Ukraine. And forgive me, I have to walk by some angry dogs. You know, they don't have doorbells here, they have dogs. And when you live here long enough, you can actually tell each house by the dog bark, so you know when people are passing certain houses. But anyways, let's go for a walk. And yeah, first of all, like, what's going on? I think there's like 20,000 so far Westerners who have signed up to join as volunteers to fight the evil Russians. And the brave Ukrainian forces, well, they're just fighting the Russians, and the Russians just suck, and Ukraine is just badass. And we're just going to kind of debunk some of this stuff. And again, my stance is neutral. If the Russians pushed over and conquered this land here, I wouldn't be scared. I mean, they'd probably arrest me for potentially being a spy or something. I don't know. I'm sure I'd have to go through something, but I'm not scared of Vladimir Putin or the Russians. I'm more scared of NATO and the Western nonsense that's kind of being pushed in. But anyways, 20,000 idiots in the name of democracy have joined up to fight against the Russians.
Hold it like that. I'm fighting for democracy because democracy is precious and one man shouldn't decide that another country shouldn't have it.
And this is just, you know, some of these guys, no military experience, never trained with the army, bunch of maybe gym jockeys, and they want glory. And I'm going to tell you right now that war is only glorious to those who have never experienced it. And you boys that are going to volunteer to fight for the democracy, which doesn't exist in Ukraine. Ukraine is a totalitarian oligarchy mafia. All right? There's no democracy in Ukraine. Ukraine is evil. Okay? My last girlfriend was a Russian from Ukraine, and the stories she told me, you know, she had her sister had a police officer bang on the door, you know, wanting to come in. And in Ukraine, you can't just open the door for the police. You actually have to call the real police and go, did you send a cop to my house? Because men will dress as police officers in Ukraine just to get access to your house to rob you. Yeah. There was some kind of football, soccer, whatever you call it, event that Europe was hosting in Ukraine. And I'll try to find sources for this. And apparently the Germans, because the Germans, you know, those evil Germans, said to Ukraine, like, because it's a European event and Europeans are coming, you got to do something about the dog problem. All your wild cats and dogs. But Germany decides to send like millions of euros of, you know, of sleepy medicine to put them down to sleep, to put them down humanely. So what did the Ukrainians do? The Ukrainian government pocketed the millions of euros, built incinerators, and burnt all the dogs and cats alive, and pocketed the money. Yeah, that's, her one of her school friends committed suicide. Right before she committed suicide, though, she had a drug problem and then found God, started going to some culty church, and this friend committed suicide. But the last thing she did before throwing herself off of her building or slitting her throat, I forgot which way she died, was she signed a will leaving everything to her church. See, her church got her apartment. And let me tell you, if you own your own apartment in Ukraine, it's a big deal. So Ukraine is not a nice place, okay? I could tell you more stories. I'm like, if I go a little bit that way, I'm in Ukraine. If I go a little bit that way, I'm in another country. And then there's kind of like a wannabe country also next to me. I'm in a weird spot. So let's talk about these idiots fighting for democracy that doesn't exist. And what is democracy? Because America, Canada, Australia, Commonwealth, none of us are democracies. And yet that is all you hear. We have to defend democracy.
As we stand together in defense of democracy.
I won't be part of any attempt to undermine our democracy or public confidence in our institutions.
Canada and our allies will defend democracy. We are taking these actions today to stand against authoritarianism.
Democracy, democracy. You listen to these idiots. Now, when I was 22, I did a parachute course with the Ukrainian Special Forces. That's right. Now I'm in British uniform, and for legal purposes, I'm not going to talk too much about it. But yeah, I've got my Ukrainian air assault jump wings. Got them when I was 22. So when I was probably at my peak of physical fitness, trained with Italians. They were Polish, got my Polish jump wings too. Trained with a bunch of officers from West Point. And I was the second best soldier on course. Only beaten by one young German lieutenant who actually kicked the crap out of me. Beat me by quite a lot. But I beat a bunch of guys from West Point officers, and there was even a retired U.S. Special Forces guy. And I was really proud of myself. And when I got my Ukrainian air assault jump wings, they came in like a glass of some kind of Ukrainian moonshine, like 60 to 80% alcohol. And I had to march up, salute the officer. He was a colonel from the Spetsnaz, the Ukrainian Special Forces. And man, you have to down this jet fuel, catch the wings in your teeth, salute the officer, and then march off the parade square completely hammered. So I've been there. What I do here is I farm. I work on a peasant farm. I tend animals. I grow corn and crops, and probably enough to feed maybe 20 families. I don't make a lot of money. I live very poor, but I eat well, and I have barrels of wine in my cellar, and if there's a war, I can get by. But my point is, I'd rather farm than join these morons who think they're fighting for democracy. So what does that word mean, democracy? Demos, people, right? Kratos, maybe power of the people, democracy. It's ancient Greek. And let's actually compare, because the Greeks didn't really do well. The only time the Greeks did well was when they had Alexander the Great. They had a Macedonian king from the north. Macedonians weren't really regarded as fully Greek. And it took Alexander the Great and his father Philip and it wasn't easy. He had to burn down Thebes, to burn down an entire, one of the most powerful Greek cities. He had to put down a lot of Greek revolts because democracy divides people. It keeps you divided, right? In Canada, we are a constitutional monarchy. British Commonwealth, Australia, we are a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary democracy. And what that means is the only part of our government that is democratic is the voting process to elect people democratically to represent us in the House of Commons to defend our Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Okay, and the Queen of England, who's the head order of our Commonwealth, well, she's only queen, according to her oath, by upholding the Gospels of Christ. That's right, so technically she's not the queen anymore. And because we're not Christians anymore, she failed to uphold Christianity. She allowed all these foreign cultures to come into our lands. And our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, clearly the first line that all laws that are underneath of it, the first line is the most important. And it recognizes the supremacy of Almighty God and the rule of law. Religion, religios, what binds us together as a people. So America, the United States of America, because Canadians are still Americans, you are a constitutional republic. Notice that. Constitutional monarchy, constitutional republic. And with the republic comes fascism. And I know everyone hates that word, but all fascism means is kind of like religion, which is to bind together. Fascism means bundle, to bundle, because a single stick is easily broken, a single arrow is easily broken, but a bundle of arrows is not so easily broken. So, why are we democracies? Do you really want to live in a democracy? Which literally means mob rules. So we're going to talk about some examples of democracy and how they don't work. You don't want the mob ruling over you. You want to live in a society bound by law, which is what the word Torah means. And it's very biblical. Ancient Israel was more or less a theocracy, but it had a constitution, the Ten Commandments. And starting from the priest, the high priest, and the king, everyone must follow the Ten Commandments. So, let's talk about democracy. Let's look at it like, let's compare a fascist republic what America is. And again, a dictator just means speaker. It's the person you elect to speak for the people. So, dictator's not actually a bad word. We have the speakers of the houses, right? They're the dictators. So we elect these people. And if you want to know more about true fascism, go to ancient Rome when they overthrew their kings and look up a guy named Cincinnatus, where the name Cincinnati comes from. He's the true model of a dictator. The Soviet Union was a democracy. Yep, ruled by the people, right? The illusion. It's the people's republic. The people. Meanwhile, it's really a totalitarian oligarchy ruled by the few, right? That's what oligarchy means. Oligos, and then archo. In ancient Greek, that would translate to be either the rule of the few, or the few who rule, or the few who command. So that's really what a democracy is. So let's draw an example. Let's look at it like a game of chess. And on one side of the board we have Democrats. We got people wanting a democracy. And on the other side of the chessboard, we have a fascist republic, what America is supposed to be. Now, in a democratic world, the oligarchs are going to call a vote. They're going to try to persuade the masses, try to tell them which way they need to vote. And they're going to cast ballots now. And so one side, all your moves are going to be done democratically. You're all going to vote on who's going to make the best move. And whatever move gets the most votes, that's the move you do. Right? Now, there's a problem there because 50% of your population, they don't understand politics. They don't know how the game is played. They don't know how chess is played. You might have 25% that know how the pieces move, but don't really know how to strategize. You might have 10% of the population that are decent players, and you're going to have that remaining tiny little few, okay, that are really good chess players. They understand how this game is played. And politics is no different. Do you really want to trust the uneducated masses who have no idea how to play this game to cast votes and win? Now let's compare that to a republic, what the Romans were, and then we'll use a Roman example. So what a republic would do is a republic would recognize there's a threat, there's a war, there's a game of chess going on, and we're going to call upon our most loyal, our most trusted citizen, like they did with Cincinnatus. And he's going to be given absolute power, elected by the Senate, and there will be elections every 6 months to make sure that he's doing a good job. It's not that he has absolute power. But in a dictatorship, the speaker is elected, the strongest piece goes forward. So that's like putting our strongest chess player at the front of the board. We're not going to vote on what is the best move. No, we're going to put our strongest chess player at the front, and then what he's going to do is he's going to take the next 12 best chess players, and they're going to surround him. They're going to be called lictors. and then it's going to go from the strongest down, form a pyramid down to the weakest, whereas in a democratic system, it's the opposite. You're going to have the mob is voting for the best moves. And the oligarchs, well, they just care about themselves. They don't really know how to play chess. So, what side do you want to play for? Which side do you think is going to win? Do you think the guys who put their strongest chess players forward, do you think they're going to beat the people who are going to now vote on what they think is the best move? Yeah. Well, let's look at another example. Let's look at Rome. What made Rome strong? They were united. Their policies actually welcomed conquered people in to their ranks. They weren't like the Greeks, where they were very divided. The Greeks all wanted their own self-glory. The Romans put the communitas, the res publica, the republic always came first in early Rome. The people. So, Athenian democracy. You want to talk democracy? In Athens, guess what? Only Athenians could vote. Only free Athenians could vote. You couldn't even move to Athens. Not like today. What are our liberal governments doing? Filling our countries up with foreigners by the millions. And within 3 to 5 years, they're all given citizenship. They're now like you. And they can cast votes. And let me tell you, these immigrants, they vote by race. They don't vote based on politics. The Indians, and the Muslims, let me tell you, they bus their people to the polls to make sure a Muslim gets in, to make sure an Indian gets in, so that Indian can help give government contracts to their own people. In ancient Athens, let's look at Herodotus, the father of history. He was exiled by his Dorian Greeks because he wrote the truth. He wrote how the Athenians really won the Battle of Salamis, helped kick the Persians out. He wrote about how the Athenians started the Delian League in Delos, and how it was the Athenian ships that kept the Persians away. And he was banished because he was on the opposing Greek side. He was a Dorian. He wasn't an Ionian. So the father of history was banished from his home. Was he allowed to move to Athens? The Athenians loved him. They loved him. Could he move there? Nope. Wrong breed of Greek. Athenian laws said, sorry, you can move to one of our colonies. And he did. He moved and apparently ended his life in Italy in a colony called Turium. So the Athenians would look at our version of democracy, importing all these foreigners and giving them the right to vote after 3 to 5 years. The Athenians would go, this isn't democracy. You people are mentally retarded. People are deranged. How do you bring in foreigners that can now vote and direct and steer the entire future of your people and everything your forefathers bled and sacrificed for? Replace your religion. How do you do that? So even the Athenians, in their version of democracy, they would look at us like we're total madmen. So let's look at Caesar and Pompey. Here's a great example, I think, of comparing putting your strongest piece forward versus having a vote on what's the best thing to do next. And what happened at the Battle of Pharsalus, and this is the last battle, when Caesar would become the undisputed master of the Mediterranean, the first man in history who conquered the entire Mediterranean And let me tell you, only one empire in all of history has ever conquered the entire Mediterranean, and that's the Romans. No one else has ever done it. And Caesar was the first man. After he overthrew the Senate, he did it. So what happened at the Battle of Pharsalus? Caesar was completely outnumbered. Pharsalus is in Greece. And he was completely outnumbered, and he was face to face with Pompey. Pompey was his old good friend. They were part of the triumvirate together. Crassus had got himself killed trying to take over the trade routes to China. Pompey was the one who took Jerusalem and brought it into the Roman Empire. And now Pompey is facing off with Caesar and the Senate. It's Pompey and the Senate versus Caesar. Pompey has more, I think, more than double the infantry. But what's important is he has 7 times, I think, between 6 to 7 times the cavalry. And let me tell you, back then, it's really whoever had the cavalry, they're going to determine the battle. So, what happened? Well, a couple things to point out. Caesar, his men worshipped him. Caesar had proven, like, wherever the most dangerous parts of the battle were, that's where you'll find Caesar. Caesar had risked his life several times just to save just a single legionnaire. There was a time where an entire legion of Caesar's men were surrounded by Germans and Gauls. And Caesar heard about it. Did he abandon them? No. He marched across, northern Gaul towards Germany, where his men were stationed. He got he had a runner at night throwing a spear that had a message written on it to tell the guys inside to hold the fort, because Caesar is coming. And Caesar came and he killed everybody. Caesar, his men worshipped him, and his men had fought for him for 10 years. These were the toughest legionnaires in the Roman Empire. So one of Caesar's men is probably worth 2 to 3 of Pompey's. But it doesn't matter. Pompey completely had him outnumbered. And the thing is, Caesar was cut off by the sea, cut off with supplies. He was running out of water, running out of food. Well, Caesar was about to lose everything. All Pompey had to do was wait a few days. Caesar would have to move positions, and Pompey would win. And the Senate could go back to Rome. But what happened? The Senate voted and said, you know what, Pompey? This is our army. We order you, us senators, had a vote. We democratically voted, and we think you need to attack Caesar right now. And Pompey protested. He said, nope. Doesn't matter that we have the numbers. These are veteran soldiers we're facing. They worship Caesar. Caesar knows what he's doing. They've been fighting for 10 years. Pompey's old now. He says, all we have to do is wait and we will win. They're running out of supplies. They will have to surrender. Pompey won the last battle, the Battle of Dyrrhachium. So what happened? Well, Pompey didn't have a choice. Democracy, right? The vote was cast. Doesn't matter what the most powerful general in the army says. The Senate says, you do what we say. Charge. So Pompey had 2 to 3 times the infantry, I think. 7 times the cavalry. And the moment Caesar saw which way Pompey's cavalry was going, Caesar took a bunch of his spearmen and hid them underneath his horses. So his 1,000 cavalry on the ground underneath the horses, and behind them were hundreds or maybe even a couple thousand of spearmen waiting for Pompey's cavalry charge. And the moment that those horses collided with Caesar's, those spearmen rose up, speared down all of Pompey's horses were speared down, and the commander of Pompey's cavalry unit was a guy named Labienus. And Labienus used to be Caesar's right-hand man. Labienus was Caesar's cavalry commander, but betrayed him to go to the Senate. And now he's charging against Caesar and Mark Antony. Mark Antony, Caesar's right-hand man, was in charge of his cavalry. What we call the Temple Mount today was once called the fortress of Antonia. Anyways, point is, you either put your strongest piece forward, Caesar, and you let him decide the fate of the army, or you vote. You let the weakest among you, who have no idea what they're doing. These people think they're a democracy. That's how stupid and far gone most Westerners are. Americans, the average person from the United States, has no idea they're a constitutional republic. We're a democracy. The media keeps saying it, so we believe them. The liberals keep saying it. Yeah, Soviet Union was a democracy. You're a constitutional republic. It's why on all your old dimes there were fascism, putting your strongest pieces forward. Why do you think the Germans were so unstoppable? Why did it take the entire world to bring down National Socialist Germany? Because they put their strongest pieces forward. Stalin eventually had to give in, and he put a guy named Zhukov in charge of the Russian army, and it was General Zhukov who really defeated the Germans. And if you read Zhukov's journal, he says, the only reason I was able to defeat the Germans was because of all the supplies that came from the United States. And I want to say this, because this is really scary, because the Western world is responsible for China. The Western world, at least it was our elites, and whatever you want to call them, the Jews, the East India Trading Company, the banking cartel, whatever name you have for them, the Illuminati, I don't care. I call them the wrath of God. They built the Soviet Union. They are the ones who betrayed the Tsar in Russia and started communism. And let's put something into perspective. The biggest threats right now to the Western world are the two countries that suffered the worst massacres in world history. Isn't that odd? More European blood was spilt in Russia than any other time, than anywhere in Europe. Isn't it odd that China, where it's like between 50 to 100 million Asians were massacred, just genocided? Isn't it odd that the West may be ignorant of it, but the West financed it? Isn't it odd now that the two countries that suffered the most from communism seem to have the world, by the balls? I'm just going to say it. I think it's odd. I also think it's potentially justified. Potentially this is vengeance. I want to see a revived Western world, but I mean, our people don't even know what our government is. They don't even know the most basic things about who we are as a people. Our religion has just been destroyed and mocked, and yeah, the churches suck. I'm sorry. The churches suck. There's a reason you hate church. There's a reason why you don't want to go there. There's a reason you don't get along with Christians. I'm telling you, it's not the Bible. We're just not reading it right. You read it in Greek, you read it in Hebrew, it's a whole different story. Let me tell you, it's not what's taught in church. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So, anyways, this is getting kind of long. These idiots that are going to the West to fight for the non-existent democracy of Ukraine, these are just a bunch of brainwashed idiots who've played way too much Call of Duty, way too much Halo, way too much. This is just, you want your moment of glory. You're not going to help Ukrainians. Very few, maybe 1 in 100 are. Maybe 1 in 100. It's just like my buddies in Afghanistan, I'm telling you. Very few of my buddies who went to Afghanistan were going for the right reason, at least in their hearts. Most of them was for Facebook photos, photo ops to go, look at how cool I am. I'm like the people in the video games. Like I said, I trained with the Ukrainian Special Forces. I've got my Ukrainian air assault jump wings, and they really mean shit to me. I'd rather farm. I'd rather farm on my poor little peasant farm, tend to my poor little goats and chickens, chase away foxes, and go join this bullshit. You people don't even know you're not a democracy. You're there to fight for democracy. You don't even know what the word means. It's how far gone we are as a people. And I look at China and Russia, the two countries that suffered the most at the hands of communism, that suffered the most at the hands of this international banking cartel, the beast that they have built on the blood of Russians. And let me tell you something, Russia's not weak. Don't mistake Russian kindness. Don't mistake Russian kindness for Russian weakness. Do not do it. The Ukrainians are not winning. The Russians are restraining. They are holding back. And when Russia unleashes their power, the world will know it. Okay, the Russians overall are the world's best chess players. They know how to lure you into a trap. They will sacrifice pieces, and you will starve. You will die. Don't be fooled by the Western propaganda, the Western media. These idiots going to Ukraine are a bunch of traitors. They're leaving their families. They're leaving their wives. I've seen guys leaving their pregnant wife to go fight for the bullshit in Ukraine. Guys who are leaving their children. They buy some body armor, they buy some rifles. You're going to go play Call of Duty now. It's all a bunch of horseshit. This is Russia's war. The West should not get involved. Fix your own countries, fix your own backyards. This is all bullshit. All right? Look, I'm here. Again, right over that hill is the Russian army. I'm not scared of them. They push over. I'm not worried about them. I'm not scared of them. I'm scared of the Ukrainians. I'm scared of NATO. And right now, Trudeau and the Canadian Army are in Latvia. And they've been there for a while. I have a buddy stationed there. And I don't know how I just have no respect for Western soldiers. How did you guys all forget? Like, how did it go from COVID, Omicron, gotta get injected with with vaccines that aren't vaccines, that have never really been tested. You are the test. You are the guinea pig. Oh, look at all the people with side effects. Look at the people dying. Look at the people with heart problems. Oh yeah, we've just done this whole test run. And by the way, apparently, a lot of people who injected themselves with this COVID non-vaccine, this experiment, apparently you voided your life insurance policies. Meaning if you die as a result of taking an uncertified vaccine, a testing drug, apparently voids a lot of life insurance contracts. So, because it was your own free will, right? You weren't forced, you weren't coerced into doing it. It's not like they had your job and mortgage to your head. Anyways, Western world, don't believe what you're hearing in the media. I don't fully trust Putin, but he didn't force his people to get injections. The people here have real problems. They don't have first world problems. Even when the vaccine mandates were here, no one followed them. I almost never had to wear a mask living here. Even when they were enforcing vaccine passports here for a little bit, they just wanted to see. They never checked them, right? So the people here have real problems. They don't have first world problems where they're forcing you all to do all this. But my point is, it went from COVID to Ukraine. The same liars, the same people, and I just can't believe I just can't believe the sheep. Don't believe a word they're saying about Ukraine. And don't mistake Russian kindness for weakness. Okay, I don't want to take sides, but the lesser of two evils, and I'm not saying Russia's good for the Western world in a sense, but to be honest, our leaders in media need to be dealt with. They do. And I just hope that from among the chaos, something's going to go wrong for them. I don't know. I'm not rooting for Putin, but I will tell you, he's not stupid. Don't believe that the Ukrainians are just fighting fiercely and that Russia's weak and miscalculated. Don't believe that. These Russians are not stupid. Okay? And I'm not worried about the Russians. I'm far more worried about NATO, the West, and all the crap they want to bring here. All the transgender crap and gay crap and Sodom and Gomorrah. Anyways. So I just wanted to say, don't believe this democracy bullshit. People don't even know what a democracy is. Soviet Union was a democracy. Totalitarian oligarchy posing as a democracy. Go back to ancient Athens. The Athenians would laugh at you at what you call a democracy today. It's a demockery. That's what it is. Anyways, I guess that's it. Don't go to Ukraine. Don't come here. Stay home. Fix your homes. Fix your families. If you've been recently divorced and you have kids, try to make peace with your wife and get back together. Build your home. Stick together. Learn how to work as a community, as a communitas. You got to put the republic, the res publica first. Okay? God, country, then family. If it doesn't go in that order, well, it's not going to work. If you think you're going to put your family first before God, well, I'm just going to do this for my family. I'll screw over my country because it'll give my kids a better future. Well, that's how you lose your country. So Sacrifice for each other, love each other, do what Jesus said. If you're depressed, go to the book of Psalms. Listen to Paul. Follow Christ's example. Defend the fatherless, the widows, the innocent. Sacrifice for each other. That's what America was about. Anyways, just ranting. Good night, Western world. Live from Eastern Europe.